You put very sexy things like abortion and marijuana on the ballot, and a lot of young people come out and vote. It was a secret sauce for disaster in Ohio.
We must recognize that as a party, good polling does not always translate into resounding victory.
Thank goodness that most of the states in this country don't allow you to put everything on the ballot, because pure democracies are not the way to run a country.
Former Republican Senator Rick Santorum there arguing that voters turning out for women's rights and against government bans on abortion and marijuana is part of why Republicans did so poorly yesterday. But that's essentially admitting that they are out of step with those voters in places like Ohio. Democratic campaign veteran James Carville is back with the wider impact on all of this. James, hang with me. I just want to walk through how this rebuke to so many Republican stances is just echoing out there. Take nonpartisan outlets like Politico, which just reports simply Democrats romp, Youngkin flops, or a Democratic blowout, as the top political paper in the country, the Washington Post, put it. Wall Street Journal discussing how these abortion results put Republicans in a bind. Our own NBC News talks about the major Republican liability on abortion that will continue into next year. ABC, another network, says this was just a punishing night for Republicans. A different article in the Post says Republicans can, quote, blame themselves for what happened, their losses, on Tuesday. And then there are local papers where so many Americans continue to get their news, which track the voter preferences for both Democratic and reform-minded policies in everywhere from Virginia to Kentucky to Ohio. We heard about marijuana there from the senator. I want to mention that legal marijuana did well in conservative Ohio, which is a sign that the Republican double talk on liberty is apparently out of step, even in Trump states. Then before I bring James back in, I'm going to do something that he knows all about, which is maps can tell the story. For example, many parts of Ohio which voted for Trump in 2020, they call those, Trump counties, also backed abortion rights. 18 Trump counties yesterday. Democrats have also been able to change the turnout inside these maps. So more liberals said yesterday they voted in Ohio than in 2020 as a share of the electorate. And for Democrats, that's a motivation. There's also a warning there because a larger 2024 electorate may revert back to the mix that favored Trump. But Republicans' plans are also, we should note here, opposed by independents. 64% of Ohio independents going for that abortion referendum. So let me put it like this before I bring James back. Elections always boil down to decisions. You decide to vote for one side, the other, or just not to vote at all. But there's no other magical option. It's just those things. And America has been facing a lot of tough decisions in our current politics, and plenty of people will tell you they think the choices are lacking. There are reports that plenty of people have concerns about President Biden. Even partisan Democrats don't say that he is their perfect, ideal choice to run next year. But that statement, that reality in isolation is not a decision. It's more of a mood. And then it gets amplified across media and the internet into questions about whether Democrats are running the right plays and a kind of a general agita, anxiety, that whole thing, even after the Democrats overperformed trends in Biden's first midterm election and in those state races on women's rights that we've been covering tonight and mentioning, and now again in the new races that are driving all of this news, and the headlines about Democrats dominating even amidst angst over Biden. The president, for his part, taking a blunt victory lap last night with a simple statement. MAGA lost, voters vote, polls don't. Now let's go win next year. Joe Biden has plenty of experience. He doesn't claim to be the youngest, hippest guy on the block. But right now, he is very clearly stunting, taking another victory lap and sort of daring his party and his doubters to face what the voters actually said. Because again, at the end of the day, it's about decisions. James Carville is here. Your thoughts, sir?
Well, first of all, if you listen to what Senator Santorum said, it's so illustrative. He thinks abortion rights are a stunt. He actually thinks that women or their families don't want to participate in decisions about their health. He actually said this is just some kind of political stunt that people came up with, and I got news for you, dude. It's not a stunt. It's real to people. They're trying to tell you that. There is no chance. Remember, he's the first vest guy. But you go around with a red vest when he was running for president. right-wing theocratic nonsense. And Glenn Youngkin picked up on that. And, let me say, Ari, in your agrarian education, these campaigns in Mississippi, Virginia, and Kentucky, they worked me like a rented mule. Which rented mules work really hard, and I love what Andy did, and I love what they did in Virginia. But I'm still hurting about Mississippi. But you know what? I'll get back up and go out there and plow again. But we had a good night. They don't understand. This is not a stunt. This is real to people. Rick Santorum will never understand that ever.
Well, I want to always be careful because you do have an agrarian edge. Sometimes we talk about a GOAT. People say a GOAT is greatest of all time. There are people who think their favorite politician is the G-O-A-T, the GOAT. You mentioned the mule. I guess the question is, respectfully, is Joe Biden actually emerging as this labor, powerful, resilient force, more mule-like than show pony? And even you, we've talked about in this program, and others have said, I don't know. Has he quieted the doubters today, or is this about something more than him?
Well, first of all, he's a very dutiful, hardworking guy who stays focused. He's had a remarkable career. I really, if you talk to these campaigns, I don't think that he was a factor. They tried to run against him, and it didn't work. That was not what voters were concerned about. So do doubts remain about the president's age? Yeah. I mean, how can any sane person say that this is not an issue? The party does this, and people will rally behind it. But to say this does not make me into a bedwetter or whatever loser. I mean, I understand all that.
Did someone call you a bedwetter, James?
Huh?
Has someone called you that?
I think they've called me a bedwetter on any number of occasions. I'm not offended by it at all. I guess I'm 5% offended that if you really think calling me a bedwetter is going to make me change my mind.
Yeah.
I don't think you know who I am. But you can't say that there's not concerns on the part of voters, and there's concerns on the part of Democrats, and the president's got to continue that. But
so let me give you a data point on that, because we love that's what we love about you is every time we have these conversations, right, they're about the facts. They're not about the wet linens, right. I guess it would be the wet sheets, whatever that would be. They're about the facts. And so here's a number. I saw this, I read this, and I thought I got to ask James about this, and I'm curious where you're going to come down. The number is Democrats outperforming historic Biden numbers. So we'll put this up. Politico had this in one of their breakdowns that was pretty interesting. Compared to the 2020 victory by Biden, quote, Democratic candidates in special elections this year had been running about 8 points better on average. So do you read that as A, they're outperforming Biden, and these are special electorates, or B, a kind of inoffensive, kind of respectable, kind of calm Democrat in the White House allows Democrats to do well? In other words, are they going to be doing this well next year?
The truth of the matter is, I don't know. There's a doctrine that's very fashionable called political Calvinism. Everything is predestined. You're going to win this state. You're going to lose this state. This is what's going to happen. There are no surprises in American politics. It's just a straight line. And when you have a one-on-one choice of Biden and Trump, people at the end of the day are going to choose Biden. Of course, maybe they're third parties, fourth parties, fifth parties, indictments, strokes, heart attacks. I just don't believe in that there's in predestination. I think events matter in politics. I think candidates matter. I think events matter. But I am not the trendy new person. I am told by people who are a lot more educated than me, you don't understand. This is what's going to happen. We all know this. And if I express some doubt about uncertainty of politics and life, that's what I really believe.
Well, the Calvinism, James, you know what the kids call that?
What do the kids call it?
They call it manifesting. So you say you're gonna manifest the White House reelection. You're just going to manifest it, and then it will be like you just make it into reality. You're reminding everyone that even the best data, trend lines, and everything else, there's a whole bunch of uncertainty here. I mean, we're living through, what's going on around the world. We're living through these trials. The president could beat a case, the former president could beat a case, and people could flock to that, or he could have 2 convictions and be potentially incarcerated. I mean, there's a lot, even more than usual, that's uncertain. My final question tonight, as we take it all in together, we're going to the debate tonight. What do you see as the 2 parties' responses to these results? I said the president is taking an earned victory lap. Republicans tonight have a challenge because, boy, oh boy, are they aware. I mean, even on Fox, quote unquote, even, they are hearing, hey, they lost.
So the biggest uncovered story is the pro-life people have quit. They've thrown in the towel. Glenn Youngkin said, I'm for only a ban after 15 weeks with exceptions. Okay, Roe was the first try. That's 3 weeks more to trimester. The problem is no one believes them. They have lied so much. Frank LaRose, when I go to Ohio, just have your tracker see me. I'm going to set up his camera so he can get me on tape talking about what a liar you are. So please come to Cleveland in January. I'm sure Senator Brown's going to put it out. Have your tracker come up to me. I'll have full protection. They will feed them. They will be nice to them.
Well, you got to tell people what a campaign tracker is.
So they send out people on the hope that somebody said something like really stupid. There's a famous guy in Virginia, George Allen, said something, or it was a tracker that got people. They always send a tracker. Don't be secretive. Come to me. I'm going to put you right in the front row. I'm going to say, let's give this guy a seat right next to the head of the AFL-CIO of Ohio. You're more than welcome to watch me call your boss a conniving liar, because that's exactly what he is.